J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit is so much more than just a story about a little guy on a huge adventure. If you look closely, it's really a masterclass in courage, a serious warning about greed, and believe it or not, a brilliant study in leadership. So let's dive into this classic and unpack the lessons hiding in plain sight. And this is where it all begins, with our hero, Bilbo Baggins. This quote is basically his life's motto. He's a hobbit who just wants comfort, good food, and a life with zero surprises. I mean, he tells the wizard Gandalf he has, and I quote, no use for adventures. This right here, this is our starting point, a cozy, quiet little world that's about to be completely blown to bits. So here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to follow Bilbo's journey from a nobody to a reluctant hero. Then we'll dig into the idea of the dragon's sickness, which is a pretty nasty form of greed. After that, we'll figure out what a true leader really does. And finally, we'll see what it all means to go there and back again. All right, first up, let's focus on Bilbo himself. See, this isn't a story about some born warrior. Nope. This is about a totally ordinary person who finds out he's got extraordinary guts when life throws him into the deep end. And this is the core idea right here. Bilbo's heroism isn't one big flashy moment. It's built, bit by bit, through a whole bunch of small, absolutely terrifying decisions where he chooses to act, even though he's scared out of his mind. Tolkien gives us this amazing way to see the fight going on inside Bilbo's head. You've got his Baggins side, which loves nothing more than a comfy chair and a full pantry. But then there's the Took side, from his mom's family, and that side has a little spark of adventure in it. The whole story is really a battle to see which side comes out on top, and in that one moment he decides to run out the door, we're told the Took side had won. This is pretty much what everyone else thought of him. I mean, the dwarves were not impressed at all. When they show up at his door, they're basically looking at him thinking, this is our guy? Seriously? Gloin's comment just nails it. They needed a master thief, a burglar, and what they got was this fussy little hobbit who looked like he'd be more at home weighing out potatoes. So how does this grocer turn into a hero? Well, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens step by step. First, he tries to pick a troll's pocket and fails miserably. But hey, it's a start. Then, all alone with Gollum, he has to use his wits just to survive. Then, in Mirkwood Forest, he single-handedly saves all the dwarves from giant spiders. By the time he's face-to-face with a dragon, his cleverness has become his best weapon. Each test just makes him braver. And the lesson here is huge. We all have that Baggins side that wants to play it safe, right? But we also have a Took side that's curious about what's out there. Bilbo's journey basically teaches us that courage isn't something you're born with. It's a choice you make, a muscle you build by taking that first, scary step, even when you and everyone else think you're going to fail. Okay, on to our second big idea. The whole point of the quest is to get a giant pile of treasure. But Tolkien drops a major warning here. The treasure itself is dangerous because of the corrupting power of greed. Tolkien actually gives this thing a name, dragon sickness. And it's not just wanting nice things, no, this is a full-blown obsession. It's a sickness that completely messes with your head, makes you paranoid, possessive, and willing to burn every bridge to protect your pile of gold. And Smaug the dragon? He is the poster child for this sickness. Just listen to how he talks. He doesn't just own the treasure, he believes he is the treasure. His scales are shields, his teeth are swords. His entire identity has been totally consumed by his wealth, and his only reason for living is to lie on top of it. But here's the real gut punch. After Smaug is finally out of the picture, the dwarf leader, Thorin, gets his treasure. And almost overnight, he starts to sound exactly like the dragon he hated. The people from Lake Town who risked everything to help the dwarves come asking for their fair share, and Thorin tells him to get lost. He locks himself inside the mountain and is ready to start a war over it. And that is the big aha moment. The dragon sickness isn't some magical dragon curse. It's a human flaw, or, a dwarven flaw. Smaug is just a giant, scaly mirror showing what happens when that voice in your head that just wants more is allowed to take over completely. The real monster wasn't just the dragon. It was the greed that was waiting inside the mountain all along. So what's the lesson for us? It's a timeless warning about ambition. Thorin's big failure was that he couldn't see anything beyond the gold. The takeaway for you and me is to actually sit down and define what enough looks like in our own lives. Because when you put people ahead of possessions, you protect yourself from your treasure becoming a sickness. Okay, for our last section, let's talk about the puppet master behind this whole adventure, Gandalf. His leadership style is, well, it's weird. It's often frustrating for the characters, but in the end, it's unbelievably effective. And this forces us to ask a really important question. What is a leader's actual job? Is it to solve every single problem for their team, to give all the orders, or is it something totally different? Gandalf's way of doing things gives us a pretty surprising answer. Right from the start, Gandalf's first move as a leader is to see potential where no one else can. The dwarves look at Bilbo and see a waste of space. Gandalf looks at him and sees the key to the whole mission. He knew that Bilbo had a kind of quiet courage and simple decency that the hardened dwarves were missing. Gandalf's method is just so strange. He's not there to hold their hands. He pops up at the absolute last second to save them, like with the goblins or the wargs, and then, poof, he's gone again, saying he has other business to attend to. What this does is it forces the dwarves, and especially Bilbo, to stand on their own 2 feet and figure things out. And here is the absolute genius of his strategy. Gandalf's disappearing acts are on purpose. He knows that people don't grow if someone is always there to bail them out. Real leadership isn't about being the hero who solves everything. It's about creating the conditions for other people to become heroes themselves. Gandalf isn't the hero of the story. He's the hero maker. The takeaway here for anyone in a leadership role is just huge. Your job isn't to command, it's to empower. Trust your people and know when to get out of the way. Sometimes a strategic absence, just stepping back and letting them handle it, is the most powerful leadership tool you have. So, after all of it, the trolls, the goblins, the spiders, the dragon, and his own fears, Bilbo finally gets back home. And it's only then, at the end of the journey, that we see what the real point of it all was. Bilbo goes there and back again, sure. But the hobbit who returns is not the same one who left. The real treasure he brings back isn't gold or jewels. It's the courage he found inside himself, the wisdom he gained about the dangers of greed, and the quiet confidence of someone who has stared a dragon in the face and walked away. And that's the final question the book leaves us with. It kind of turns the mirror on us, forcing us to look at our own lives, our own challenges, our own adventures, and ask ourselves, what is the real treasure that I'm after? Is it something I can own or something I can become? Hey, if you learned something new from this classic story, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to Summed Up Books for more. If you want to start your own adventure, you can grab a copy of The Hobbit using the link down in the description, or you can try a free month of Audible on us. Click, learn, repeat.